Hey guys, it's Sam, and I'm here to talk about wide receiver cornerback matchups for Week 8. The first thing I want to get into is Andy Dalton. Now, Andy Dalton probably disappointed a lot of people who were streaming him last week against the Chiefs. That was supposed to be the highest scoring game of the week. Andy Dalton was supposed to go nuts. This is supposed to be the game that you could feel super confident in starting him, and just as he was about to become this, week-to-week quarterback you could trust, he flops in classic Andy Dalton style against one of the weakest defenses in the league. Now, I would suggest you keep him in your lineups for this week because the Chiefs have given up the 31st. The Chiefs have given up the second most passing yards per game, as they're 31st in the league in passing defense. But the Bucs, who the Bengals have this week, are the absolute worst and have given up the most passing yards in the league. So I think Andy Dalton gets a real chance to bounce back. AJ Green has lined up all over the place this season. He hasn't lined up in a single spot more than 39% of his snaps. And the Bucs don't really have anyone who could stop AJ Green. They don't really have anyone who could stop anyone. So I think this is going to be a big week for AJ Green, a big week for Tyler Boyd, and hopefully the Bengals will figure out how to get Joe Mixon involved a little more in the passing game as well. I just think the Bengals offense flopped last week. I don't think they're going to do that this week. Against the Bucs 2 weeks in a row. I really think you got to start Andy Dalton and you got to start all those Bengals offensive players. The next matchup I want to talk about is Tyreek Hill versus Adam Jones. Now, in Week 4, the Broncos lost to the Chiefs, but they found a way to bottle up Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill actually had 9 receptions, his highest receptions number of the season, but he only had 54 yards, which was his second lowest yardage output of the season. So the Broncos really found a way to let him get the ball, but kind of save themselves from that big play that we all know he's capable of. Their corners gave Hill a lot of cushion, a lot of room, and just let him have underneath stuff. And that was really how they, kept him out of making the big plays. Now we all know that Tyreek Hill can outrun a 35-year-old Adam Pac-Man Jones. And Andy Reid can, game plan around what the Broncos did last time if that's what he wants to do. But the Chiefs also have a million other ways they can beat you. Patrick Mahomes is, a top 3 quarterback right now in the league this season. He's still got Sammy Watkins. He's got Travis Kelce. Kareem Hunt is running over literally everyone right now. So if they don't want to use Tyreek Hill, they don't even have to. So the Broncos can game plan around Tyreek Hill all they want. The Chiefs can beat them really in a number of other ways. You have to play Hill. He's the wide receiver 1 or 2 in the league, depending on what your format is. But it'll be very interesting to see if the Broncos are able to bottle him up again the same way they did in Week 4, or if they choose to focus their efforts elsewhere and Hill does break loose. It's just something to take note of, that the Broncos did have his number the first time they played. Now, the next game I want to talk about, or the next matchup I want to talk about, is Alshon Jeffery versus Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey is known for running his mouth, but he's been kind of quiet the last couple of weeks because he's been burned. Last week, he was burned by DeAndre Hopkins, admittedly one of the best receivers in the league. And he's going to look to come out strong against Alshon Jeffery. Alshon Jeffery has had an incredible start to his season. He's had at least 74 yards and a touchdown in 3 of his 4 games since returning from injury. And so far this season, Ramsey is outside the top 20 in yards per target and receptions per coverage snap. People are throwing at him. People are having relative success throwing at him. But the biggest damage done to Ramsey has been against Odell Beckham Jr. in Week 1 and against DeAndre Hopkins last week. So I don't think Alshon Jeffery is quite at the level of those guys, and I think Jalen Ramsey is going to bring it all this game, and he's still a shutdown corner. We've seen his body of work over the past few seasons. Now it'll be a little bit more. It'll be helpful if Blake Bortles could generate some offense and not as much pressure would be on the defense and on Ramsey. But I think Ramsey is going to shut down Alshon Jeffery. The best bet you have in that game is playing Nelson Agholor, because that's really the one area where the Jaguars might be weak is in the slot. And I think this could be a big Agholor game. I would not want to start Jeffrey this week. He's like a wide receiver 3 for me. Obviously, I understand you probably have to start him with bye weeks, but I think this is where Jalen Ramsey really really comes back and really is able to open his mouth again after this game. Last matchup I want to talk about is Adam Thielen and Stefon Diggs exploding against the Saints. Saints have given up the 5th most passing yards in the league, and they're about to go up against 2 of the best receivers in the league. If you don't agree that Adam Thielen is a top 3 receiver in the league right now, then you haven't been watching football this season. He's incredible. He's breaking records. He's had 100 yards in all 7 of his games so far. He's unguardable. And going in the slot against P.J. Williams, who's been the primary slot receiver since Patrick Robinson went down, he doesn't have a chance against Adam Thielen. In fact, Pro Football Focus gives Adam Thielen a 49% advantage in that matchup, and that's the highest advantage given to any wide receiver or any cornerback in any matchup by Pro Football Focus this week. Now, Ken Crawley has been the worst cornerback in the league in terms of QB rating against him. He's allowed a quarterback rating of over 154, which is about the worst you can be as a corner. So they brought in Eli Apple to help out in that left cornerback position. But Apple's given up 16 receptions for 210 yards over his past 3 games. He hasn't been that good of a cornerback this season. This is kind of a make or break season for him. He hasn't had a great career so far. He hasn't played well this season. He might be an upgrade over Ken Crawley at this point. But, the Saints are really grasping at straws here, and I think the Vikings offense with Stefon Diggs and Adam Thielen are going to be able to pass the ball all over, and it's going to be a very high-scoring game, very exciting to watch because obviously the Saints have offensive firepower of their own, and I'm looking forward to all these matchups.